What happens when a 4-kilometer-wide interstellar object defies the fundamental laws of physics and suddenly changes course in the vacuum of space? Right now, scientists worldwide are in absolute panic mode as 3IATLAS, an object older than most of our galaxy, just performed an impossible maneuver that has NASA, ESA, and every major observatory scrambling to understand what we're truly dealing with. The acceleration readings? They match the combined thrust of multiple Saturn V rockets. Yet there's no visible propulsion system, no exhaust trail, nothing that should allow this ancient visitor to alter its trajectory. But that's just the beginning of this unprecedented situation. No one in the global astronomy community could have predicted what happened. For years, interstellar objects have been expected to behave according to the unchanging laws of celestial mechanics. Once they enter a solar system, their paths are defined by gravity and momentum, nothing more. But in early July of 2025, 3IATLAS, a massive interstellar visitor measuring nearly 10 kilometers across, proved that assumption wrong in the most shocking way possible. Traveling at an incredible 130,000 miles per hour, this ancient traveler had been expected to follow a perfectly predictable trajectory. Scientists calculated that it would swing around the Sun, pass near Mars, and then head back into deep space, never to return. It should have been routine, at least by cosmic standards. But then, without any warning, the object performed a maneuver that has shaken modern science to its core. In less than 2 days, 3IATLAS abruptly shifted its course, turning by an astonishing 17 degrees. This was no subtle drift, no tiny deviation explained away by gravitational nudges or sublimating gases from its surface. It was a sharp, sudden pivot, more akin to a fighter jet banking in the sky than a natural object obeying Newton's laws. To put this into perspective, altering the trajectory of an object this size requires unimaginable forces. In the vacuum of space, with no atmosphere to push against, a body like 3IATLAS should continue in a straight line indefinitely. The fact that it didn't has left the world's brightest minds scrambling for answers. Across the globe, monitoring teams erupted into chaos. Instruments that once delivered reliable predictions now showed paths diverging wildly. NASA convened emergency briefings in the dead of night. The European Space Agency held a crisis meeting at 3 in the morning. Observatories in Chile, Hawaii, and Spain worked frantically to update their models. Yet every single prediction collapsed as new data poured in. Every physics-based simulation failed. For the first time in living memory, scientists were forced to admit that the cosmos had just defied their most fundamental assumption. What made this even more unsettling was the sheer scale of the maneuver. Imagine a mountain-sized object suddenly shifting direction with the power equivalent to multiple Saturn V rockets firing at once. That's the kind of force recorded by observatories. And yet, when astronomers peered at 3IATLAS through the most powerful telescopes humanity has ever built, they saw nothing. No exhaust plume, no signs of chemical propulsion, no natural explanation whatsoever. This wasn't just a cosmic anomaly. It was a wake-up call. If an interstellar object can alter its own trajectory in such a precise and violent way, then something or someone must be in control. And if that's true, then humanity is no longer simply studying an ancient relic from deep space. We may be witnessing the actions of advanced technology billions of years old, a technology that understands and manipulates forces we cannot yet grasp. As the hours passed, the realization spread like wildfire through the global scientific community. Astrophysicists who had not slept in over 36 hours stared at their screens in disbelief. Emergency calls between NASA, ESA, and independent researchers filled the night air. The entire world had just witnessed the impossible, and the question was no longer whether 3IATLAS was a natural body. The question was why it had chosen this moment, this trajectory, to reveal capabilities far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss any updates on the universe's deepest secrets. And if you love exploring hidden mysteries and unexplained discoveries, give this video a like so we know to keep uncovering them. When the 17-degree turn was first detected, scientists thought it had to be an error, perhaps a calibration fault, a software glitch, or interference in the instruments. But as the data poured in from multiple observatories across 3 continents, the impossible truth became undeniable. The readings were real. 3IATLAS had changed course with a level of force that defied every natural explanation. To understand how shocking this was, consider the raw numbers. Astronomers measured accelerations equivalent to firing off several Saturn V rockets simultaneously. These were the colossal launch vehicles that once carried astronauts to the moon, each capable of generating over 7.5 million pounds of thrust. Now imagine that power multiplied several times over, and instead of launching a 100-ton spacecraft, it was shifting an object 10 kilometers wide, the size of a small mountain, across the void of space. That is the kind of force 3IATLAS demonstrated in a single maneuver. Yet, when scientists pointed their most sensitive instruments at the object, there was nothing to see. No brilliant flare of energy, no jets of gas, no heat signatures or exhaust. Plumes that might explain the acceleration. In space, propulsion leaves clues. Even a comet adjusting course from outgassing, gases venting off its icy surface as it warms near the sun, produces visible trails, predictable pushes that can be measured and modeled. But here, the instruments found only silent. The energy was there, the movement undeniable, yet the mechanism behind it remained completely invisible. This left scientists with a chilling conclusion. If 3IATLAS could move in ways that mimic the raw thrust of rockets without leaving any detectable trace, then we were witnessing a process beyond known physics. Was it some kind of reactionless drive? A technology theorized but dismissed as impossible under our current understanding of momentum and energy? Was it manipulating gravitational fields in ways we cannot yet imagine? Or had humanity just encountered a form of propulsion designed to conceal itself, deliberately hiding its signature from any civilization advanced enough to watch? The lack of answers shook the scientific community to its core. NASA engineers who had built entire careers on the predictable laws of orbital mechanics suddenly faced equations that no longer worked. ESA's magnetometer readings, once designed to pick up the faintest whispers of a comet's field, were spiking off their charts. The numbers weren't just high, they were organized, patterned, as if some kind of system was actively controlling the field around the object. The comparison many researchers reached was unsettling. It was as though 3IATLAS was not a wandering relic, but a guided vessel. A vessel that could alter its own path with precision, without visible means, using forces humanity has not yet mastered, or even proven possible. For decades, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence has been speculative, relying on faint radio signals or distant anomalies in starlight. But here was something different, something tangible, something in motion. A vast interstellar traveler demonstrating physics that humanity cannot replicate, and perhaps cannot even comprehend. And perhaps most unnerving of all was the timing. Why now? Why reveal these capabilities only as it approached the inner solar system? Was this maneuver simply the activation of ancient automated systems, programmed billions of years ago? Or was it an intentional signal, a message written not in words but in movement, deliberately showing us that we are not the only intelligence in the cosmos with the ability to shape the stars to our will? The forces recorded were real, the physics behind them unknown, and the implications profound. 3IATLAS had shattered the illusion that space is predictable and that objects move only where gravity allows them. Something extraordinary was happening, and humanity had no choice but to watch. The mystery of 3IATLAS deepened, not only because of its sudden maneuver, but also because of what it is made of and how impossibly old it seems to be. The story began on July 1st, 2025, when NASA's Atlas Sky Survey first detected a faint, fast-moving object cutting across the background stars. At first glance, it seemed to be just another interstellar traveler, much like Oumuamua in 2017 or Comet 2I Borisov in 2019. But within days, astronomers realized they were looking at something profoundly different, something that didn't fit any known category. Ordinary comets and asteroids from beyond our solar system carry a recognizable chemical signature. As they approach the Foibum, sun, ice, and frozen gases begin to sublimate, venting water vapor along with smaller amounts of carbon dioxide, methane, and other compounds. These reactions are predictable, and the ratios rarely change. But when spectrographs locked onto 3IATLAS, the readings were baffling. Instead of the expected water-rich plumes, this object seemed to breathe carbon dioxide, releasing it at a ratio nearly 8 times greater than water vapor. This wasn't a minor deviation. It was completely backwards from everything we've studied in thousands of comets across the solar system. Imagine watching a forest where the trees exhale smoke instead of oxygen. The behavior of 3IATLAS was that alien. The implications are staggering. A body exhaling carbon dioxide at such intensity suggests a structure or chemistry far removed from anything formed in our cosmic neighborhood. Some scientists have argued this points to an entirely different process of planetary formation, one that occurred around stars unlike our sun. Others whisper something more provocative, that the ratios are artificial, engineered, or at least influenced by design, serving a purpose we cannot yet guess. And then there is the question of age. By analyzing its spectral signature and modeling the radiation damage imprinted across its surface, astronomers estimated that 3IATLAS may be more than 7 billion years old. To put that into perspective, our own sun is only 4.6 billion years old. Much of the Milky Way's thick disk, the dense population of older stars orbiting above and below the galaxy's spiral arms, formed around 6 billion years ago. That means 3IATLAS predates not just the solar system, but vast swaths of the galaxy itself. It is older than Earth, older than the planets, older than many of the stars we see in the night sky. This object has traveled through regions of space our species can barely imagine, enduring cosmic collisions, stellar radiation, and gravitational slingshots over timescales that dwarf the entire history of life on Earth. And yet, despite its inconceivable age, it remains intact, functional, and active. How could something survive that long? If it is merely a natural fragment, then its resilience is unlike anything we've ever studied. If it is artificial, then its creators designed it to endure not just centuries or millennia, but billions of years of relentless cosmic wear. The carbon dioxide exhalations, the reversal of expected chemistry, and the evidence of extreme antiquity paint a picture that is both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. This isn't just another interstellar rock wandering through the solar system. This is a relic older than much of the galaxy, arriving at our doorstep as if on schedule. Its very composition is a message written in the language of chemistry, a message that says, "I am not from here. I am not what you think I am, and I have been traveling far longer than you can comprehend." As if the bizarre composition and impossible maneuver of 3IATLAS weren't enough, the next discovery pushed scientists even further into uncharted territory. It came from the sensitive instruments designed to read faint magnetic whispers across space. When astronomers turned these detectors toward the object, they expected weak, inconsistent signatures, the kind of scattered electromagnetic fluctuation comets naturally produce as they interact with solar radiation. Instead, what they found left entire research teams stunned. The readings weren't just high, they were off the charts, nearly 400% stronger than what a comet of this size and composition should ever emit. These were not background fluctuations or cosmic noise. They were structured, powerful, and consistent, as though something inside 3IATLAS was deliberately generating a magnetic field. Even more unnerving was the organization of these signals. Natural objects produce chaotic field, messy and unstable, shifting with the solar wind and the heating of their surfaces. But 3IATLAS displayed something very different. The field lines appeared clean, aligned, and sustained over time. It was as though the object wasn't just radiating magnetism, it was controlling it, shaping it into a shield or a grid. Researchers compared the patterns to those generated by Earth's magnetosphere, the invisible bubble that protects our planet from solar radiation. Except this was no planet, no spinning iron core driving the effect. This was a wandering interstellar body, ancient and alien, radiating a magnetic signature that seemed to have purpose. Some speculated it might be a defense mechanism, designed to protect the object from the harshest cosmic rays. Others suggested it could be part of a propulsion system, bending space or interacting with solar winds in ways humanity can't yet comprehend. What disturbed scientists most was the stability of the field. Over days of observation, the magnetic fluctuations repeated with almost mechanical precision, cycling in rhythms too orderly to be dismissed as coincidence. The data resembled not the erratic hum of a natural rock, but the steady pulse of an engineered machine. Telescopes around the world confirmed the findings. Independent teams from Hawaii, Chile, and South Africa all recorded identical results. And once again, emergency calls rippled across international borders. Physicists tried desperately to reconcile the evidence with existing theory, but the gap between what was expected and what was measured grew wider with each new reading. If 3IATLAS truly generates and manipulates its own electromagnetic field, then the implications are staggering. This would mean it carries technology, or embodies principles, that humanity has not only failed to replicate, but has barely imagined. Magnetic shielding, electromagnetic propulsion, or something even stranger. It all seemed possible. And beneath it all lingered a darker question. Why would an object traveling through interstellar space for billions of years need such a system? Was it purely for survival, to shield itself on its endless journey? Or was it designed to broadcast, to be found, to send a signal across the stars not in words, but in the unmistakable language of controlled energy? One thing became clear. 3IATLAS was not silent. It was speaking. Through its movements, through its chemistry, and now through electromagnetic rhythms that looked less like the randomness of nature and more like the heartbeat of an ancient machine. For weeks, astronomers around the world had been puzzling over 3IATLAS's strange maneuvers, its alien chemistry, and its unnatural magnetic field. But nothing could have prepared them for what came next. It began quietly, almost unnoticed, when a team of radio astronomers in Puerto Rico, scanning the skies for background signals, noticed a faint, repeating transmission emanating from the object. At first, they assumed it was interference, perhaps a satellite in orbit, or the usual background chatter of human technology bouncing around Earth's atmosphere. But when independent observatories in Australia, South Africa, and Europe all confirmed the same signal coming from the same source, the truth was undeniable. 3IATLAS wasn't just moving strangely, it was speaking. The transmission repeated every 4.7 hours with uncanny precision. That alone suggested something extraordinary, because natural radio emissions, whether from pulsars, quasars, or comets, are irregular and noisy. But this wasn't noise, it was structure, it was order. When scientists broke down the patterns, they uncovered something unmistakable. The signal contained sequences of prime numbers, numbers divisible only by 1 and themselves. In mathematics, prime numbers are universal, a kind of cosmic language that transcends culture, biology, and even planets. They don't occur in random sequences in nature. They have to be constructed. And yet, here they were, encoded into the Signal of a body that had traveled across interstellar space for billions of years. But that was only the beginning. Within the signal were constants woven like threads, values for pi, the speed of light, Planck's constant. These weren't just random bits of information. They were the fundamental truths of physics, the building blocks of reality itself. It was as though the sender of the signal had chosen the one language no intelligent species could misunderstand, the mathematics of the universe. And then came the most staggering revelation. Buried deeper in the signal was a form of data compression far beyond anything humanity has yet achieved. Our most advanced algorithms for reducing data, methods that allow vast amounts of information to be packed into tiny signals, look primitive compared to what was hidden in the transmissions of 3IATLAS. Some of the world's top cryptographers worked day and night, pulling apart the layers of encoding, and what they found left them speechless. The structure of the signal wasn't just efficient, it was elegant, as if written by minds who had mastered not just communication, but the very art of information itself. Every layer revealed more complexity, more intelligence, more evidence that this was no accident of physics. It was deliberate. It was intentional. For the first time in human history, scientists weren't staring at a possible artifact from afar or speculating about shadows on a distant star. They were listening to a voice, not a biological one, not even a spoken one, but a voice all the same. A voice from an intelligence older than Earth itself, carried across the stars for billions of years, now finally reaching us. The implications spread like wildfire. If the signal contained prime numbers, universal constant, and compressed information, then it wasn't just a beacon. It was a message. Something or someone wanted to be heard, and they had chosen 3IATLAS as their messenger. Around the world, astronomers, cryptographers, and physicists leaned closer to their screens, knowing that humanity had crossed a threshold. This was no longer about a strange rock defying gravity. This was contact. Real, undeniable contact with intelligence beyond our own. If the strange radio signals of 3IATLAS weren't enough to raise the alarm, the visual data pushed the mystery to a level no one could ignore. As the object drew closer to the inner solar system, high-resolution imaging became possible. Teams from NASA, ESA, and ground-based observatories combined their efforts, using every telescope available to capture its surface in greater detail. What they found shook even the most skeptical scientists. On the surface of 3IATLAS were not the rough, jagged scars of natural erosion. Instead, instruments revealed something profoundly unsettling. Geometric formations, vast hexagonal ridges, straight-edged patterns, and angular depressions sprawled across its terrain like the blueprints of a forgotten city. Nature, left to its own devices, tends toward chaos, fractured craters, irregular fissures, surfaces that bear the random violence of cosmic impacts. But here, geometry reigned supreme. Straight lines, repeating angles, and symmetry far too precise to dismiss as coincidence. It was as though the object had been carved, shaped, or built. Some observers described it as resembling the surface of a colossal machine, its structure functional rather than decorative, the patterns aligned, in grids, as if serving a hidden purpose beneath the crust. And the deeper scientists looked, the stranger it became. Spectral analysis, the study of how materials reflect and absorb light, revealed metallic alloys embedded within the surface. These weren't the common iron or nickel compounds one might expect from asteroids. These were exotic blends, combinations of metals that do not occur naturally under any conditions we know. Alloys that, on Earth, can only be produced in controlled laboratory settings, requiring precise heat and pressure. Even more disturbing, some of these alloys showed properties that bordered on the impossible. They exhibited resistance to radiation, far beyond natural minerals, and heat tolerances that would allow them to survive the heart of a star. If these results were accurate, then humanity was looking at engineered materials, substances forged with intent, designed to endure conditions that nothing in our solar system could withstand. The combination of geometry and metallurgy left little room for doubt. This wasn't a random lump of rock wandering the galaxy. It bore the hallmarks of construction. Perhaps it was a vessel, perhaps a probe, perhaps something we have no words for yet. But whatever it was, it had been built by someone or by something. The reactions from the scientific community were divided between awe and dread. Some argued that the geometry could still be a trick of perspective, an illusion created by shadow and light. But as more scans confirmed the same patterns, that argument grew harder to defend. Others claimed the alloys might be the result of unknown cosmic processes. Yet even they struggled to explain why those metals were organized in such deliberate ways across the surface. If the object is artificial, then its very existence changes everything we thought we knew about the universe. It means intelligence arose long before humanity, advanced enough to craft a probe that could survive billions of years of interstellar travel. And now, that probe, shaped by alien hands and armored in impossible alloys, had chosen this moment to reveal itself in our skies. The message was no longer hidden in signals or chemistry. It was written into the very bones of the object itself. I was made, I was built, and I have come a very long way to be here. For months, scientists had tracked 3IATLAS with precise confidence. Its trajectory was calculated down to the smallest decimal point. Its course projected to swing harmlessly past Mars and continue on into the outer solar system. The event was expected to be historic, yes, but safe, an opportunity to observe an interstellar visitor without any danger to our planetary neighborhood. But all of those assumptions shattered the moment 3IATLAS changed direction. Its violent 17-degree turn did more than shock physicists. It rewrote every prediction of where it would go. Instead of gliding past at a comfortable distance, the object was now set on a path that would carry it startlingly close to Mars. The new projections placed its flyby at just 2.7 million kilometers from the planet, closer than some of its own moon. The implications were immediate. Mars is not just a barren world to humanity. It is a hub of robotic exploration. Orbiters like MAVEN and the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter circle the planet tirelessly, relaying vital data about its atmosphere, its geology, and even acting as communication relays for rovers on the ground. These machines represent decades of work and billions of dollars of investment. A sudden gravitational disruption or an unexpected debris field from 3IATLAS could put them all at risk. Inside NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, control rooms filled with tense silence as simulations ran through every possible scenario. Could the object shed fragments under the stress of its maneuver? Could electromagnetic interference disrupt orbiters as it passed? Would Mars itself experience measurable effects from such a close approach? No one could say for certain, and uncertainty was the one thing scientists feared most. But where there is danger, there is also opportunity. For the first time in human history, a massive interstellar object, possibly even an engineered construct, was about to sweep close enough for high-resolution observation. Instruments designed to peer at Mars could now be turned toward 3IATLAS, capturing details no telescope from Earth could hope to resolve. If the timing and positioning were right, the orbiters could map its surface, probe its composition, and maybe even record the origin of its strange signals. The moment carried a sense of double-edged anticipation. On one hand, the risk was real. A near pass of this magnitude could alter the delicate balance of spacecraft orbiting Mars. On the other hand, it was a once-in-civilization chance to study an interstellar enigma up close. Scientists spoke of it in reverent tones, calling it the equivalent of sending probes to another star. Except this time, the star had sent something to us. As the flyby date approached, global space agencies faced difficult choices. Do they prioritize protecting their valuable orbiters, adjusting their positions to reduce risk? Or do they take the gamble of keeping them trained on 3IATLAS, hoping to capture data that might never be available again? The clock was ticking. The trajectory was locked, and the outcome remained uncertain. What was clear, however, was that humanity was about to witness something extraordinary. An interstellar traveler, older than our solar system, brushing past the red planet as though it had chosen to make its presence known in the one place humanity had already begun to reach. The risks were undeniable, but the opportunity was beyond measure. The signals of 3IATLAS had already astonished the world. Prime numbers, universal constants, compressed information far beyond our technology. But when cryptographers from MIT and NASA began tearing into the structure of those transmissions, they discovered something even more extraordinary. The signal wasn't just a single message. It was layered, like a cosmic puzzle box, each stage unlocking deeper and more complex information. At first, the data appeared to describe movement, rows of numbers, arcs, coordinates, star maps. It was MIT's astrophysics team that realized what they were looking at. This was a stellar navigation record, a logbook written across billions of years. The path of 3IATLAS stretched back more than 7 billion years, tracing a journey across the galaxy itself. It had passed through nebulae, skirted the edges of collapsing stars, and even drifted near regions of space where dark matter density warped gravity in ways humans had never directly observed. For the first time, humanity wasn't just guessing about ancient galactic history. It was reading it, encoded in the language of an object that had been there. But this was only the first layer. The second was even more unsettling. Embedded within the transmissions were forecasts, maps of solar activity, magnetic storms, and stellar flares, predicted with an accuracy that bordered on the supernatural. The models were tested against Earth's own sun, and the forecasts proved correct 97% of the time, weeks in advance. Our best solar observatories struggle to predict such events with even half that accuracy. Yet, here was an object casually, handing humanity a predictive framework for stellar weather, as if it had been monitoring stars on its voyage and perfecting the science for eons. And then came the third layer, the deepest, most complex portion of the message. Cryptographers described it as a framework of equations, written in pure mathematics, building towards something humanity has long dreamed of but never achieved: a unified field theory. It appeared to connect the four fundamental forces of nature: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces into one seamless model. If confirmed, it would be the single most important scientific breakthrough in history, solving mysteries that have eluded generations of physicists. But the equations didn't stop there. They hinted at applications, technologies far beyond our reach, concepts of faster-than-light communication, mechanisms to manipulate space-time itself, and even diagrams resembling structures that could channel energy in ways no human engineer has ever designed. It was as if the signal contained not just knowledge, but a roadmap, instructions for civilizations ready to take their first steps beyond their own star. The discovery electrified the scientific world. Overnight, labs across the globe shifted their focus, pouring resources into analyzing the data. Governments, too, became deeply invested, some demanding secrecy, others calling for the information to be shared openly. Because if the message was real, if humanity could unlock even a fraction of what was hidden within those equations, then everything from energy to space travel would change forever. And yet, beneath the excitement was a haunting realization. This knowledge had been sent for a reason. Someone, or something, wanted humanity to have it. The layers of the signal weren't just a gift. They were a test, a measure of whether we were advanced enough to open them. And the deeper humanity looked, the more the question grew impossible to ignore. Why now? Why us? As scientists peeled back the layers of 3IATLAS's messages, a chilling realization emerged. The interstellar object wasn't just a passive messenger, a scientific probe, or a curiosity to study. It was something far more purposeful, far more urgent, a refugee beacon, Data embedded in the signals painted a picture of a civilization that had once thrived in a distant part of the galaxy, only to face annihilation, cosmic catastrophes, gravitational distortions, intense radiation zones, even pockets of destabilized space-time had forced them to flee their home star systems. These were not random disasters, but predictable, slowly propagating events that swept through regions of space with devastating precision. Humanity was witnessing a warning encoded in both signal and substance. The universe could be far more dangerous than we ever imagined. 3IATLAS itself was a survivor. Its complex structure, metallic alloys, and geometric architecture were not just for communication. They were designed to endure the unrelenting hazards of interstellar flight. It carried detailed information about these hazards, including navigational instructions, environmental readings, and predictive maps showing the movement of these galactic-scale threats. Essentially, it was a warning package, a cosmic survival kit, meant to reach civilizations capable of understanding and acting on it. But what stunned researchers most was the revelation that 3IATLAS was not alone. Signals suggested the existence of thousands of similar beacons scattered throughout the Milky Way. Each one functioned as part of an interstellar evacuation network, a web of autonomous lifeboats carrying knowledge and survival strategies across light years. Some had already passed through our solar system unnoticed, silently continuing their voyage to more distant sectors. Others were still on their way, carrying the experiences, warnings, and technologies of vanished civilizations. The implications were staggering. These beacons were not exploratory. They were lifelines, desperate attempts to preserve knowledge and intelligence in the face of cosmic extinction events. Humanity, for the first time, was confronted with a galaxy alive with the footprints of intelligent life, not just in existence, but in flight. These were survivors speaking across eons, leaving messages encoded in mathematics, physics, and material science, hoping someone or something would listen. The realization also brought unease. If advanced civilizations had been forced to scatter, to flee annihilation, what threats might one day reach our solar system? Were we glimpsing a future that could one day include Earth? And yet, within the fear lay opportunity. Humanity had the chance to learn from these refugee probes, to understand not just the cosmos, but the strategies needed to survive in it. The beacons were both a warning and a gift, an invitation to ascend beyond planetary limits. Atlas, once thought to be a wandering comet, had revealed its true purpose: a messenger of survival, a cosmic refugee carrying the wisdom of civilizations long gone and the instructions for navigating a perilous universe. Its journey was far from over, and its revelations were only beginning. The revelations of 3IATLAS spread like wildfire. Initial attempts at suppression by governments and intelligence agencies were quickly overwhelmed. Leaks, open-access publications, and the vigilance of amateur astronomers made secrecy impossible. The data was out in the open, streaming across scientific networks, news outlets, and online forums, sparking a global debate. What did it mean for humanity's future? The messages were stark and unflinching. The interstellar civilization that had sent 3IATLAS left behind a warning encoded in every calculation, every pattern, and every layer of transmitted data. Single-planet civilizations face near-zero odds of long-term survival. Entire species had vanished because they were confined to their home worlds, unable to adapt to the cosmic-scale hazards that silently traverse the galaxy. Humanity, for the first time, was forced to confront a truth far more urgent than climate change, nuclear proliferation, or pandemics. Our survival depended not on politics, but on reaching beyond the cradle of Earth. Scientific organizations rapidly shifted priorities. Space agencies, previously limited by budgets and politics, now collaborated at unprecedented levels. Engineers, astrophysicists, and materials scientists worked side by side to explore technologies once relegated to science fiction. Massive space habitats capable of sustaining human populations off-planet, propulsion systems that could move, entire fleets across interstellar distances, and shielding methods that could protect against radiation bursts, gravitational anomalies, and destabilized space-time zones. The clock was ticking, and every year counted. Beyond technology, the cultural and philosophical impact was profound. Humanity began to see itself not merely as inhabitants of a single world, but as potential participants in a broader galactic civilization. Educational systems introduced cosmic survival strategies, while political leaders faced pressure to invest in initiatives previously considered speculative. Entire industries pivoted toward interstellar research, from advanced AI for autonomous spacecraft to materials capable of surviving decades in the harsh interstellar medium. Yet urgency was tempered with uncertainty. How long before these galactic-scale threats reached our neighborhood? The data implied decades, not centuries. A tight window for a species that had barely scratched the surface of space exploration. Every decision mattered. Every misstep could be irreversible. The 3IATLAS messages were both a lifeline and a challenge. Humanity had the knowledge, but could it rise to meet the scale of the threat? As the world watched, the message became clear. Humanity had reached a crossroads. One path led to complacency, confinement, and eventual extinction. The other required courage, cooperation, and ingenuity on a scale never before demanded of our species. 3IATLAS was no longer just an interstellar object. It was a cosmic wake-up call. The question now was whether we would answer it in time. The choice was ours, and the clock was ticking. As 3IATLAS continues its silent voyage through the galaxy, humanity stands at the edge of a new era. The object itself drifts farther from our sun, a metallic and geometric sentinel carrying the knowledge and warnings of a civilization that survived against impossible odds. It is a reminder that intelligence, curiosity, and foresight can persist even when entire worlds vanish. Around the globe, humans are beginning to act. Space habitats are in early construction, propulsion systems are being tested, and shielding. Technologies are advancing faster than anyone thought possible. The seeds of interstellar civilization are being planted, not for conquest, not for glory, but for survival. And yet, the ultimate question remains unanswered. Will humanity rise to meet the cosmic challenges that 3IATLAS has revealed? Or will we remain confined to a fragile planet, unprepared for the dangers that move silently across the stars? The probe drifts onward, indifferent to our success or failure, a messenger of both hope and warning. Its journey is a reminder that the universe is vast, ancient, and full of mysteries, and that survival demands vision, courage, and unity. In the end, the legacy of 3IATLAS may not be the secrets it carries, but the spark it ignites in humanity. The realization that our fate is not written by the stars alone, but by what we choose to do with the knowledge they leave behind. And as we look to the sky, we are reminded that for the first time in history, we are not just observers of the cosmos. We are participants. If you found this journey through hidden science, cosmic secrets, and potential alien infrastructure as mind-blowing as we did, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Don't miss future explorations into the universe's deepest mysteries, because some secrets are just waiting to be uncovered.